folks, we are up and running. My name is meteorologist Tim Pandagis. Just want to introduce myself. I'm actually from KBMT's sister station in Norfolk, Virginia. And first off, I just want to sincerely say that I hope everybody's doing fine out there after a very rough last 12 hours. We're about 14 hours out now post landfall from Laura as it's moving well inland and starting to fall apart. In fact, it is no longer a hurricane. It has been downgraded to a tropical storm. It spent roughly 54 hours as a hurricane, and a good chunk of that was spent as a major hurricane as it made landfall last night right around 1 a.m. as a Category 4 with sustained winds of 150 miles per hour. It verified just a little bit farther to the east in Louisiana, but still the entire area saw the effects from the storm as it moved inland. The latest advisory now, 2 o'clock from the Hurricane Center, 65-mile-an-hour winds, gusts up to 90. Thankfully, it's no longer going to be directly impacting us. Of course, damage is still left behind, some flooding, power outages, that sort of deal. So recovery mode is well into effect, but the storm itself has lifted on out of here, which is some good news. I want to show you radar now because landfall and the specifics on it was around 1 a.m. near Cameron, Louisiana. It was a Category 4, as I mentioned, with sustained winds of 150 miles per hour, and you see that eye right over Cameron. In fact, the definition of landfall is the center of the eye passing over land, and you can see this screenshot right at Thursday morning at 1 o'clock Central Time with the center of the eye right over Cameron. The eye wall here is where you find the strongest of the winds, and that was pushing up towards Lake Charles, and they clocked wind gusts at the airport over 130 miles per hour. In fact, at a time just after landfall, it knocked out the Lake Charles radar. The radome is rated for winds up to like 120 or so, I think it is. So that just destroyed the radar there, and we lost radar for a while. In fact, it is still down because the radar itself is destroyed. It's going to need to be replaced. If you remember back in 2017, Hurricane Maria did the same thing to Puerto Rico, and their radar site there in San Juan was completely obliterated. Look at some of these peak wind gusts. Again, these are unofficial and not verified yet, but coming from the airport, that's a pretty official statement right there of 132 miles an hour. Beauregard Parish in Louisiana, 82 miles per hour at the peak there. In terms of rainfall, it actually verified a little bit lower than what the forecasts were going for. A lot of the models had up and over 10, 11, 12 inches, but still substantial soaking out there. Sabine River at Orange had the highest total I could find, just over 8¼ inches of rainfall. Kirbyville, just over 5 inches of rainfall since the storm moved on out. Now let's look at the visible satellite imagery here. Something you'll notice is that as it's lifting north, gaining latitude, it is getting larger in size. The wind field is spreading on out more, and it's interacting with a feature coming in from the north and west that'll eventually shove it off to the east. But it's much larger from when it made landfall. At that time, it was roughly like 400 miles in diameter. Now it's almost nearly 1,000 miles wide in diameter there. And here's a 24-hour loop. We'll kind of mix the visible and infrared satellite imagery. That way we can see it at night. Visible is only lit up by the sunlight. And that very formidable eye as it made landfall. And then over land, it's away from its heat source, its fuel, the warm ocean waters. So it's going to continue petering on out as it pushes off to the north. Now, since it made landfall yesterday, that makes it the 7th, or early this morning, I should say, that makes it the 7th tropical system this year already. Think about it, we're not even halfway through the hurricane season yet. Landfalls in the United States. The third hurricane, Hannah, Isaias, and Laura were the 3 hurricanes. Laura, of course, the only major hurricane to make landfall in the U.S. this year, and hopefully it is last. Here's how it looks now, where it goes forward from here. It's now located pretty much along the state line of Louisiana and Arkansas, 65-mile-an-hour winds as it moves farther north for a little while longer, and then it takes a hard right turn to the east. It'll start to decay even further down to a tropical depression probably by later tonight, and then to a remnant low as it pushes into the mid-Atlantic and southern New England, bringing in some rain and some wind too. In fact, here's a look at the forecast rainfall totals off to the north. Could see 6 inches in parts of northeastern Arkansas and southeastern Missouri. And then as it moves off to the west, it kind of rains itself out. Still good soaking in a lot of areas, up to 1 to 2 inches or so. All right, overall, that's the big feature we're watching on satellite imagery, but I need to remind you, we aren't at the peak of hurricane season yet, and there are other areas we're watching. Nothing currently named, but there are 2 tropical waves that have come off the coast of Africa. One is a little bit farther to the west, heading towards the Windward and Leeward Islands. That's off behind me. This one has relatively low chances right now, but there is a chance. 10% within the next 2 days, 30% within the next 5. The next name on the list will be the 14th name, and that is Nana. If that doesn't develop, there's another wave coming off the coast of Africa now, slightly lower chances. Again, it's still really far out. We're talking if this was to develop, it'd be 10, 11, 12 days before it's anywhere close to the United States. But this one right now has about 20% chance within the next 5 days. Here's a look at hurricane season and climatology. The peak, September 10th. Here we are, August 27th, so we're ascending towards that peak, still 2 weeks out. And then there's still a very active period on the backside of September, even in through the middle parts of October, too. Climatologically, the warm waters of the oceans, favorable upper level wind data, all that sort of thing plays to a very active time frame here. And since the first half has been very active, we'll likely see more instances to come. Of course, with the hurricanes coming our way and any in the future, make sure you stay with 12 News Now on all the social media platforms. Download the app, get them on Twitter, Facebook, and Instagram. Again, coming to you from Norfolk, Virginia, from KBMT's sister station, WVEC in Norfolk. I'm meteorologist Tim Pandages, and I hope you guys are going to be all right and recover nicely. And let us know out here in Virginia if you guys need anything. Until then, and try to enjoy the rest of your Thursday.